Hi, everybody at First UU. I'm Amanda Hayes. I'm your Justice Coordinator. And I just wanted to share a really quick video with you guys about some basics in how to use Google Sheets. So I'm going to give this example of a Google spreadsheet that I made for our JAM team, for us to be able to sort of coordinate and keep track of who is doing different parts of our justice ministry on different months. Like who is gonna send a little blurb about the Share the Plate group, or who is gonna set up the JAM coffee hour, or who is gonna be at the JAM table. So the first thing is just a real basic thing. How do you edit one of these individual cells in Google Sheets? So that's pretty simple. What you do, you want to click on the cell that you want to edit, and then it sort of depends on whether you want to keep what is there or whether you want to replace everything that's there. So you can see there's this question mark here. If I want to just replace everything that's in that cell, I can just start typing. I'll put my name there. Okay, question mark gone, my name is there. But maybe what I actually want is to edit what's in this cell and not replace everything. So if I want to do that, I'm going to click on the cell, and then you can see there's this bar up here. And this bar says the same thing that is in the cell. Now, if I click here, and I get this blinking cursor here, now I can edit what's in here. I could add my last name, or I could get rid of this and I could put someone else's name there. All right. And once I'm done, I'm going to hit enter. Or another thing I could do is double click in the cell if I want to edit. That does the same thing as clicking up here. And if I'm done, yeah, either hit enter or click somewhere else in the sheet to stop making changes. So that's one piece. Another question is, this is sort of a big spreadsheet. So how do you navigate around this spreadsheet, right? Like, you're not able to see actually the entire spreadsheet at the same time. So what you need to be able to do, there's a couple different ways. One is there's these bars at the scroll bars here at the bottom and also here on the side. So you can use these scroll bars. This side one is going to go up and down, and this one at the bottom is going to go left and right. That's one way you can navigate. Another way is you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So if I use the left arrow key on my keyboard, it's going to move which cell is highlighted here. And if the cell that's highlighted goes off the edge, it's going to sort of scroll through until it's not off the edge anymore. So that can be a nice, easy way of navigating through a page also. So then another piece that makes it a little bit easier to look at this spreadsheet that I've used is freezing rows and columns. So it's a really nice tool that you can use when you're making a spreadsheet, or a thing that you can do with a spreadsheet that's been made where, you know, it's a little bit hard. It's a pretty long spreadsheet. It either goes, you know, pretty far this way, but you still want to see that first column. Even when you're over way to the right, you can still see the first column that says what month it is. Or if it's really long, it goes really far down. You know, I'm scrolling down through this, but you can still see the first column that, you know, says sort of what each column is about, or you can still see the first row that explains what each column is about. You know, is this about notes on presentation? Is this about who is signed up to run the JAM table, that sort of thing. So the way that you freeze these columns and rows is you go to View, and then freeze, then you can choose how many rows or columns to freeze. So for example, right now, just the first row and the first column has been frozen. But let's take a look at what this sheet would look like if no rows were frozen. So if no rows were frozen, you can see there was sort of this gray line that had been here, this thick gray line that disappeared. And so now if I go down this page, that top row disappears. Or if I were to go back here, freeze no columns. Now this column is also not frozen. So if I go over to the right, all of a sudden we can't see what month it is anymore. So because I think it's pretty useful to be able to see those things no matter where on the spreadsheet you are, I'm going to go back here into view and say freeze first row, or freeze one row, and freeze one column. But there's some other things you can do. You can freeze more, say actually all the way through to the fourth column and the fourth row were headings that I wanted to be able to see no matter where in the sheet I was. So I could go up here and say freeze up to current row. And now you can see, even when I scroll down, all those 4 rows are still visible, which could also be a nuisance. So I'm going to change it back. All right, and there's a couple more things I wanted to share. One is about text wrapping. So in Google Sheets, it's a little bit different than in Excel, the way that text wrapping works. And so let's use this cell as an example. Let's use this cell as an example. What action will you encourage the congregation to take? So right now, we actually can't see the little tool that allows us to do text wrapping at all. It is hidden in this little thing that says more. If I give Google Sheets a little more space in the window, then we'll be able to see. Or the other thing is I could just click on those 3 little dots, and then I'd be able to see the text wrapping tool. So here's the text wrapping tool. If I hover over it, it says text wrapping. And if I click on it, you can see the 3 different types. So one type is called overflow. And you actually can't quite see what this does very well in this context. So I'm actually going to copy this cell, which I'm going to do by hitting Control-C. Or if I were on a Mac, I would use Command-C. And then I'm going to hit Control-V. Now this cell, everything that was in that cell appears over here. So back to the text wrapping. I'm going to click on that. I'll show you what the overflow text wrapping looks like. So this is overflow text wrapping. It allows the text to sort of just keep going until it hits a cell that has some content in it. So for example, if this cell had something in it, like my name, you can see that that text from starts here in this cell stops, sort of goes like underneath. If my name were actually over here, then it would get cut off right here, which is sort of what would happen up here because there's text right in this cell over here. So another type of text wrapping is this clip. And clip is similar to overflow, but it automatically clips it within the cell. So it just sort of, you know, it goes until it gets to the end of the cell and then it stops. All that information is still in the cell. If you click on it here, you can see up here, here's what all it says, or if you double click, you can also see and you can edit it. All right. And now there's one final type of text wrapping, which is wrap. And this is the type of text wrapping that I have actually in these headings. So that just allows it to wrap. One of the things that can be really awkward about this, if you have like a lot of text in something like this, say it just sort of keeps going and going and going. Well, now when I hit enter, it automatically made this row a whole bunch wider to be able to fit all of that, which I can fix. I can come over here and I can put my cursor right here on the line between row 10 and row 11. I can click on it and I can drag it back up. So now that still has all that content and it's still wrapped, but it's not so big. But that's one thing that's might not be what you want about wrapped. It might show more than you want. So that is text wrapping. Another thing, there's also text like location and alignment. So there's you can sort of have it be aligned on the left, center, or right. There's also vertical alignment. So whether you'll be able to see it up here better. Right now it's aligned to the bottom, but I could align the text to the middle or to the top if I wanted, sort of like it on the bottom. Yeah, and then there's one other piece that I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna get rid of these things because that's not how it was before. And also this one, change that back to a question mark. So as this Google spreadsheet is currently, it's online. Actually, right now, everyone on the JAM team has access to this spreadsheet, is able to see it, is able to change it. But say I printed this spreadsheet, what would be the disadvantage of printing it? Well, once I print it, you know, it's just going to be on the page. It's just going to be what it said at the moment when I printed it. And so the issue with that is, if anyone else on the team then comes in here and makes changes, well, my printed version is out of date. And so I think Reverend Isabel and I would encourage folks to try thinking about getting comfortable with using, you know, these Google documents and Google Sheets virtually as they are, rather than printing them out. Because once you print them out, you really lose all the benefits of using it as a Google document or Google spreadsheet, which is that it's sort of this living document that, this is very UU, right? It's this living document that you can edit, that you can change, that people can collaborate on, other people can edit, other people can change. That's sort of the value of Google Docs, that we can keep things up to date, we can keep changing them, we can keep making edits, we can keep growing and learning. And so that's just one thing to keep in mind if you're thinking of printing something. You know, just maybe stop and wonder, is this going to be immediately out of date? Is it, you know, do I actually maybe want to have the living version rather than the printed one? Something to think about. So anyway, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video and learn a little bit more about Google Sheets with me. I hope that you have a lovely day.